Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back here with you guys on this Monday morning. Last 2 weeks has gone rather well for us. We don't have any turnovers from those 2 weeks. We've managed to be able to win football games and score points and without tackling anybody and without turning people over. So it's been a great 2 weeks for us. An opportunity for us to refocus and do some things recruiting wise that have gone rather well for us. But this is game week, and it's important to be prepared. And we've been, preparing for our opponent for the last 2 weeks. So we're looking forward to it.
What's been kind of the way to keep the guys focused, over such a long break, kind of in the middle of the season? How do you? I know the team's hungry, but how do you keep them hungry enough to keep going and get through those 3 weeks?
Well, it's tough, because you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old young men, so it's a little bit tough, to remain focused. But we kind of took it in stages. The first week was more about getting healthy and trying to stay off of them a little bit, so they wouldn't have to really hit each other a little bit. But then last week we kind of got into game planning a little bit and trying to get back sharp and focus a little bit before we took our second break. So it's kind of tough, but we have some resilient guys, and then also a great coaching staff that understands the importance of doing the right things for our players.
For you personally, I know I saw you at the ULM game. When you have this kind of a break, this extended break, are you able to kind of step back and, reevaluate, not even reevaluate, but just kind of, take the time to work on anything in particular from the coaching perspective?
For me, it's you just kind of assess, what are you doing well, what you're not doing well, and then our coaches did a lot of self-scouting to kind of look at ourselves to see what we're good at and what we're not good at, and what tendencies we're giving away and things of that nature. So it's the same old that people go through, week in, week out. But for the most part, it's more about, rest and recruiting and getting ourselves healthy so we can make this final push towards the season.
When you look at your next opponent, their record combined with having been off for so long, is there any concern of, just kind of a, not as much of a drive going into the game between being off for so long, maybe a hangover from that, and then, them not having won a game yet?
I don't think there will be a hangover, so to speak. I think, there'll be a lot more excitement. There may be a tendency to try to settle our guys down a little bit more than usual because it's almost like having an opening weekend all over again. You've been off for, it will be 3 weeks by Saturday. So it's a little different situation, but, we talk about all the time of playing wounded, animals. And anytime you play a team that's wounded, that's a dangerous team and anything goes for them. So we have to be prepared for them, and I think the important thing to remember is your job to know your opponent. And it doesn't matter who you play, you're supposed to respect your opponent, and we do. So we know our opponent, and we've been knowing them for a while, and we have to make sure that we do all the right things in order to be successful.
That may mean more so an urgency to start fast, because I know you talked 2 weeks ago about starting slow, especially getting down 16-0 to be able to come out after a 2-week layoff and play well in the first quarter.
Yes, it's definitely important for us to start fast. Even more so, this week than any other week, because Mississippi Valley, I don't think their record really indicates their team and their coaching staff and how well they do, how good of a job they do. I think, you're dealing with a situation. It's homecoming for them. Their seniors want to play well, and then they'll have a large crowd to play in front of. So for us, it's about taking the crowd out of the game early, putting some points on the board early, and creating some opportunities for us to get even more points so that we can take the crowd out the game. So that's the focus, is making sure that we get on a run and stay on a run throughout the game and not play sloppy.
Have there been any injuries that this extended break able to get guys healthy again?
We don't really talk about too much about injuries, but guys they're okay. Our guys are pretty much healthy for the most part. Of course, there were some bumps and bruises, after the Prairie View game, but that's to be expected, when you're playing a physical ball game. But we should be at full strength, for this particular weekend, and we're looking forward to it.
I know you said a couple weeks ago that you don't ever want to be in a position where you have this much time off, but
yeah.
would you rather have it in the middle of the year as opposed to like later in the year? You know what I mean? Like, is this, if you had to
2
choose,
weeks?
yeah, if you had to choose as this time, is this like the best of the worst kind of thing?
No, it's never good to have 2 full weeks off, and really almost 3 full weeks. So, I told you guys I'm never gonna lie to you. So, no, it's never good to have 3 full weeks off. And of course you have to have a week in there, a bye week in there to get prepared. But it's unheard of, to have 2 full weeks off. The only time that I've heard of such of a case, it's been during a natural disaster that happened in the state of Louisiana. I think that happened to maybe Tulane or somebody like that, where they had to take 2 weeks off. So, no, to answer your question, no, it's not a good thing to have 3 weeks basically off.
When you're practicing and see the guys, do you sense like any, I don't know what the right word is, like restlessness or anything from them, like just antsy to actually play a game and not just go through 2 weeks of open practice?
I can probably answer that question after tonight's practice, because I didn't see any antsiness in the last 2 weeks. But I could probably answer that for you tonight or tomorrow. Really I haven't seen any of that. I've seen guys trying to make sure that they're prepared and getting their bodies where they need to be in order to be prepared to make this final push.
So the focus level hasn't been anything that it's normal, I guess?
Yeah, it's pretty much normal for the most part. Our job as a coaching staff is to, if they're moving too slow, to push on the gas a little bit, and if they're moving too fast, to slow them down a little bit. So, and then my job is just to, guide the steering wheel. So that's what we do, and for the most part, they've been the same way throughout the entire 2 weeks.
I know you talk about practice a lot. Practice, obviously, how you play, but going back to even some of those training camp practices, how have you molded, I guess, your leading a program through practices in terms of going fast? A lot of people probably don't see that. I remember talking with Sean Walker basketball. Right. He said he will come by specifically to your practices to see how you practice because he's like enthralled with the way you do things, and a lot of people don't maybe associate the nitty-gritty stuff into translating into the game. So how have you molded your practices to translate into the game?
Well, I don't think I'm the only person that's doing that. A number of coaches on our staff, have been on other staffs that have done things that way. It's really our way. It's not just my way. But mainly it's about trying to play to the same speed that you'll play on Saturday without going to the ground. So that's basically what it's about. There's a lot of transitional times within our practice where guys are running on and off the field, running from one drill to another spot on the field. So our focus is always how we're moving from drill to drill, how we're running on and off the field, and then in the middle of the play, how you're running during that particular play. So there's really not much time for us to really spend a lot of time coaching because, we believe that you coach on the run and you coach off of film, and the more reps you run, the better that you have a chance at being. So we basically tend to focus on all of the long dialogue for the meeting rooms because you really don't have time, the way our practices are structured, to really, spend time talking and communicating, in long stretches of time. So it's kind of a coach on the run type of deal. You may say a couple things to them, but then they're right back finna run another play again. So that's just our focus because, we just believe that the more times you do it, the better that you'll be at it. And then we slow it down in the meeting room and talk them through the mistakes that they made so they can see themselves.
I'll never see you condition much. Is that twofold when you're running from station to station or in practice that the benefit of that you don't really need to condition as much as
we do condition, but it is twofold. The way we practice is twofold. But our conditioning is based on the number of mistakes we make in the previous game. However many penalties we have, that's how many, sprints we'll run the very next week. And so it's basically, that's just the way we handle it, But our conditioning is basically focused on being focused. because we do run, and we run 40s and 20s, but with the mindset of everybody being on the same page, everybody going on the whistle, or everybody going on my command. So it's more about being together and doing things right together more so than a conditioning period, even though conditioning is involved.